You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today and we have another show lined up for you all today. And man, just like any other time, it's going to be a great time. We have a special guest, John Tarnoff. He is a executive career transition coach, a TEDx speaker, a best-selling author of the famous book, Boomer Reinvention, How to Create Your Dream Career Over 50. And we're going to have an amazing time looking into his story and what he's doing. So first and foremost, John, I just want to say thanks for being on the show today. How you doing, man?
Shamaya, doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I appreciate you being on. So let's dive into what you're here for. I mean, after your 35-year career as a film producer, a studio executive, and a tech entrepreneur, you had to reinvent yourself at the age of 50, and you earned a master's in counseling psychology. And you're now helping those in their mid-career point in their lives as professionals. And you're helping them beat ageism and helping them undo the stuck in the rut type vibe and helping them to put themselves in position to be in the hidden job market. So kind of tell us a little bit about your experience, understanding that, hey, sometimes it's okay to reinvent yourself.
I would say more than sometimes it's okay. I think it's job one for anyone coming up through their careers today. I started out at a time, a long time ago, where being in the entertainment business was kind of different from the rest of the world because the entertainment business was so volatile. And my mom used to say to me, why can't you hold a job? Because, in the old days, you got out of school, you went to work for a company, they would nurture you, they would help you grow, they'd help you train through various stages in the company. And, for the most part, people worked in one or two companies for the course of their careers. But that's changed today, and the rest of the world has become a lot more volatile, just like entertainment. So one of the things that I realized coming up, particularly as we were getting into this very rapid fire, changeable, internet disrupted era, is that a lot of the kind of resilient best practices that I learned coming up in entertainment were going to be valuable for others in my generation and generations to follow that are experiencing this turbulence in their careers.
And being able to walk away from Hollywood, I mean, that's an experience of its own, high pressure, very high expectations, fast moving environment. How has that helped you not just have a certain way of looking through a lens to help people today because you have rich experience already being out in the field?
Right. I think the number one takeaway that I would share with you and your audience is that the number one thing or the number one mistake I think that people make when they need to get a new job, they've lost their job, they've decided it's time to quit, they can't stand it, they've got to move on to something else, or they're recovering from a job loss, and we're seeing a lot of that disruption in the workforce today. The first thing people do is, okay, I'm going to update my resume and start applying to jobs that I see posted online, whether LinkedIn or Monster or Indeed, wherever that is. That is the biggest mistake that you can make in trying to get your career back going again. Because as many people who are kind of stuck in this situation will tell you, you can apply to 20, 30, 50, 100, 200. In some cases, I talk to people who apply to 500 or 1,000 jobs without getting a single response. Applying to jobs online is the single worst way to go about getting a job because everyone is out there. The tools are crazy. AI has made this a complete race to the bottom because people are using AI to write their resumes, use agents to submit their resumes. Companies are overwhelmed. They're using AI to fight back. So it's a battle between the bots, and you, the poor job seeker, are left out. Even if you're doing everything right, even if you're using the AI formatted resumes and cover letters, you're still going to get rejected, particularly if you are in mid-career. So what's the secret? The secret is relationships. And I preach this from the mountaintop. Stop chasing job openings. Start building relationships. It's all about your network.
Once again, listen on Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our special guest, John Tarnoff. Go to his website, johntarnoff.com. And to push that even further, you're teaching people value. You're not just saying, here's some magic words you can say that makes you kind of look good or stand out of the crowd, but you're helping them turn their professional image brand into a certain identity that makes us really become sought after versus, oh yeah, you're speaking the part.
Yeah.
Well, this you're teaching us is helping them be an expert in the field to be trusted.
Yeah. So you said the magic word, which is identity. And this is a kind of a tough concept, I think, for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. It's like, well, so what do you mean? I need to kind of reposition my identity. And I would say, well, it's in the concept of positioning. It's not that there's anything wrong with your identity. It's that you're not positioning yourself accurately or in an updated fashion so that people can really understand what's the value that you bring to the table. And a lot of times you kind of read these bios, these resumes, and it starts with this kind of corporate speak. Experienced management, sales executive with broad experience over, whatever that laundry list of skills and experiences might be. Stop writing about yourself in the third person. Figure out what is that focused value proposition, that specialization that you alone can do. Now, it's not like what you do is all that different from what a lot of other people do, but I believe that no one does it quite the way you do it. So you want to really drill down a little bit, do some self-reflection, come up with a series of statements about what it is that you actually deliver. Because people are much more interested in deliverables versus responsibilities. And if your resume, you got to look through your resume. If your resume says, participated in this or responsible for, or whatever that might be, that's fine. But know that people are looking for the deliverables. So if you say, and obviously using the word delivered, completed, managed, and talk about the quantifiable results that you delivered, that's beginning to get you into the zone where you're going to be taken seriously as someone who is different, standing apart from the crowd, standing above and beyond your competition, someone who over-delivers, right? Versus someone who is just kind of going along to go along.
You have some sayings: don't follow your passion, find your usefulness, and stop applying to jobs you can do. Attract the jobs that you were born to do. Which one do you feel surprises people sometimes, and why does it actually work?
Right. I think people will say, what do you mean stop applying to jobs you can do? If I can do the job, why shouldn't I apply to that job? Now, LinkedIn's got a little feature which is really telling in this regard, and that is this feature that kind of gives you the percentage of applicability that you have for a particular job opening. It'll tell you that you're 60%, 80%, 90%, whatever, right for the job, that your skills will match up in that area. So what you have to do is realize that the employer is looking for someone who fits 100% of that job description. So what you need to do is only apply to the jobs where you're 100% applicable to the job. And you may say, but there aren't, that many jobs out there that map to 100% of my skills. And that's very true. And this gets into something that you were talking about before, which is the hidden job market. The idea that by some estimations, 80% of hiring is done through referrals, not through job applications. when you're in a situation where you're being referred to a job, you've already got a leg up, and you're much more likely to map to 100% of what they want. The other thing to remember is that a job description is an imperfect description of what they really want for a job. If you've been in a hiring situation, you've been a hiring manager, I know I've come up with a lot of job descriptions over my years as an executive. It's the worst, right? It's the thing you like least about your job is having to figure out how the job maps. And, HR says you got to fill out this job description. We got to post it online. Okay, fine. I'm going to do it. Recognize that is not necessarily the complete picture of what they're looking for. The only way you're going to find out whether you're a good fit for the job is if you can have a personal connection, actually get an interview with the people who are going to be hiring for that job. So once you're in that situation, you're much more able to communicate all of the additional aspects of who you are, the way your mind works, the way you approach solving problems. You're not going to get that in a resume, at least not to the same degree that you're going to get it in a conversation where you're vibing with another person. So that's why it's really important to understand that there's so much more to the process than just applying to a job that you kind of sort of can do. Don't waste your energy applying to stuff where you're likely going to get rejected. Only work on the possibilities where you're really a likely candidate.
Once again, talking to our special guest, John Tarnoff. Go to his website, johntarnoff.com. When you understand how powerful a referral network can become to a person's professional world, how hard is it for someone to actually maintain that to where it gives them leverage?
Great question. And I get this all the time. It's like, okay, so I'm doing my networking. I'm contacting people. I've got all these names. I've, reconnected with some old colleagues. I've met some new people. Now what am I supposed to do? Call them every 2 weeks and say, what have you heard? That's not going to work. And of course it won't. It's going to annoy people. So you have to employ the third element of my 3 elements framework, which is thought leadership. It's professional branding. It's focusing not on what you've done in the past, but what you can do in the future. And you want to use thought leadership, which is online and offline, the practice of quantifying, expressing your expertise as an expert, as a subject matter expert, and using every opportunity to share your thoughts and prescriptions and best practices around how you do your job, what impact it has, what relevance it has, and connect with people on these important existential issues in your industry to build your expertise and demonstrate your credibility and build trust. And that's what allows you to continue to communicate with your network, because you've got this kind of feed going on of information based on what you're reading, what you're seeing, the people you're talking to, the information you're getting. Now you have the opportunity to share with other people in your network, help them. I always say that you want to be giving first to your network before you start asking for favors, in a kind of a strange twist on the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. You want to be spending 80% of your time giving to your network, sharing information, making introductions, and 20% of your time asking for favors. So that's what really drives the process of building your network, is kind of getting this kind of over the top layer of thought leadership to drive engagement, make the conversations much more natural.
And part of owning that, also, you help people to understand to own their age. Don't hide anything on their resume that can be damaging. Kind of explain to our viewers and listeners why owning your experience and your age is more valuable than trying to do something else.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because for workers who are aging into their 40s and 50s and beyond, ageism is a really bitter reality that they're facing. And I'm not going to pretend that there's a solution to age bias. It's kind of the last acceptable ism. There is a law that is against it, but employers seem to flout it. The courts don't seem to be willing to enforce it. So don't try to fix it. What you have to do, though, is circumvent it, but you also have to avoid giving into it. And I believe that removing your dates on your profile, shortening the number of entries on your resume and your LinkedIn experience section only detracts from the perception of your value. And there's a lot of advice from recruiters that you want to hide your age, you want to dye your hair, you want to kind of look younger, you want to, remove those dates. Look, the truth is, if an employer is not going to hire you because of your age, because you're older and they've got this bias and they think, oh, he's an old dog, he can't learn new tricks, or whatever that prejudice might be that they have. Hiding your age on your resume is not going to fix it. They're going to find out how old you are. And I've heard many stories from people who say the application process was fine until I got into the interview, and then everything just stopped. And they thanked me very much, and I never heard from them again. So why would you waste your time pursuing a job where you're not wanted? Because let's say you get the job. Let's say you're successful in lying about your age and your experience, and you've kind of convinced them that you're 10 years younger than you are. Do you want to walk in there every day living this lie? Are you going to try to kind of protect this lie from ever being found out? What a terrible way to live. What a terrible way to work. And by the way, it's going to get you in trouble somewhere down the line. And if you want to build trust with your new colleagues and your employer, imagine how they're going to feel if they feel that you've tricked them into hiring you. So I would say stay away from that practice completely. Stand up for your age. Your age is experience. You've learned life lessons, professional lessons that people should be, kneeling at your feet to learn. And one of the things that enlightened employers understand is that having a cadre of senior members of their team is a great opportunity to help train and mentor younger workers. So look for multi-generational workforces that understand the value of having multiple generations working together, because it really does up productivity. And there's so many studies that support this.
If someone's thinking about making a change, what has been your experience in noticing some mistakes that high achieving professionals could be making or are making when they're trying to make that pivot?
Well, we've talked about some of them. I think the hiding your age is one of them. I think another one is to really avoid specializing in a particular value proposition that really niches you into your best set of deliverables. A lot of times people will say, and there are two answers to your question. The first one, which kind of builds on what we were talking about before, is this idea that if you specialize, the common concern is, well, am I leaving opportunities on the table because I'm just focusing in this one area? And the truth is that you may be leaving some opportunities by the wayside, but the chances are those are not going to be as responsive as if you take a really specialized attitude. You're going to get, let's say you're going to get fewer hits with a specialized attitude, but those hits are going to be much more on target, much more valuable, and a much more fertile ground to graze, if you take the analogy, than going wide. The other thing I think that senior professionals have to recognize is that their identity is not caught up in their job title or their status or the company that they just came out of. And it can sometimes be very challenging for someone. And I've had this experience in my own career where I had this big executive position and then boom, I'm out. And it's like, I'm just, John Q. Public. I'm no one special anymore. I used to be someone special, right? So you have to take a real look inside and realize, okay, this is a time for me to really focus on all of the values that I bring to the table and that I can offer someone in the future. Take an attitude of service. Don't over-identify with the position, the role, the responsibilities, the power that you might have had in your previous company. That's gone. Now you want to be open, have a growth mindset, and entertain new possibilities that may not be what you were looking for right out of the box, but may actually be more appropriate for you at this time in your career.
I want to zoom in on when you was talking about the giving part. If anything, I would say giving in the relationships you build. Had someone who was just on before you, and it's a long-term saying that multiple people have said before, and that is how you do one thing is how you end up doing everything.
Yep, absolutely. And that goes back to the question of lying about your age, right? If you're going to build trust, and here's the thing, the more senior you get, the more important it is for them to trust you. You're in a more responsible position. You're going to be doing things that have greater impact and greater ramifications for the company. It's not like you're some entry-level person who's just kind of, pulling widgets back and forth and carrying out orders from a supervisor. You're now a more senior member of the team. They're going to really think twice about the kind of person that they're hiring. So your integrity is very, very important at this stage. And everything that you can do to present a consistent and dependable, trustworthy, credible picture of who you are, what you've done, where you want to go with it. That's the key.
For those who are over 50 and they're in a situation where they're about to rethink what the second act will be for them, you have a lot of people that you have taught. You have students underneath your LinkedIn learning courses. You have a lot of people that follow your work on social media. What's one practical step that they can do today to start positioning themselves to prepare for that second act?
Sure. This is going to kind of come out of left field, but I recommend that everybody starts a daily reflection journal. Longhand, one page. This is based on a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's out a long time ago. It's about writer's block and other techniques that artists can use to create. I believe that when you're in a transition like this, particularly at this stage of your life where you're thinking, oh my God, I'm kind of halfway through. I've got this next phase of my life coming. Who am I at this point? Where do I go? Kind of the midlife crisis stuff that goes on. Having that opportunity every day to write briefly about what's coming up for you. This is stream of consciousness stuff. This is not kind of teenage Dear Diary stuff. This is really your opportunity to build an inner relationship between your conscious self and your unconscious self. And having that continuity every day you can have therapy sessions with yourself in a page where all of a sudden you kind of realize ideas, people you haven't talked to, things that you could do, different techniques that you could adopt. It's an opportunity to kind of discover yourself, rediscover yourself. And it may seem kind of like a strange thing to do when you're looking for a job. It's like, well, why am I writing this diary? But that's kind of the brushing your philosophical, spiritual, purpose-related teeth in the morning is to have this opportunity with yourself in a quiet space 15, 20 minutes max to just kind of reconnect with who you are and build over time that relationship where your inner voice will actually be able to give you actionable wisdom.
And like David said, that's what separates the average from the best. And with that, I would say you've been listening to Refocused Radio, watching us online, talking to our special guest today, John Tarnoff. Go to his website, johntarnoff.com, and get a copy of the book that he has, Boomer Reinvention, How to Create Your Dream Career Over 50. Last words for you. If you had something you want to say for our audience listening, watching, what would you like to tell them?
I would just say that even though we are right now at an age of tremendous uncertainty with the AI revolution kind of nipping at our heels, I still believe that human beings have a lot more to offer than computer code. And that as much as AI is going to help us do a lot of things, it's still going to need us to use our best judgment and insight as human beings in order for it to actually get work done. So don't lose hope. Don't be discouraged by this. Use it to your advantage. Learn what you need to learn and stay strategic, stay visionary.
Like always, John, thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure.